Kawasaki lets the good times roll. Kawasaki lets the good times roll. Get aboard, get away, and you're gonna say, let the good times roll. Kawasaki lets the good times roll. Kawasaki lets the good times roll.
Welcome back to the channel. We're in the garage today working on my father's 1972 Kawasaki F7. This is currently episode 5, I believe. So if you want, you can go back, check out the previous episodes, see everything I've done up to this point. But this is what we're going to be working on today. In the last video, I basically was talking about how I needed to make a bracket for the front fender. So this is a piece that I welded up. Took a little bit of time to measure out and get centered, but I've basically got some nuts welded to the bottom there, a couple of spacers, and then some other threaded holes here that go up into the triple. So she's pretty solid. Eventually I have to pull her all off, paint it up. Those work. I've got the headlight brackets on. I'm not too thrilled with them though, because they actually hit the tank, because I believe this front end is slightly back a little further, but it's also longer. So I've got it dropped about an inch. Besides that, I've now got the cluster mocked up on some mounts on the new triple tree. We've got some risers to bring the handlebars up. That was always something Father talked about and I kind of talked about. Just prefer a little more upright position. So right now she's looking pretty good. It's mostly back together. I mean, not really. The back is just kind of floating. I need to actually go buy real hardware to stick in all this with some bushings. On top of that, we've now got the intake all back together down in here. These are freshly powder coated parts, some fresh hardware. Got the wiring ran, seat all back on. This isn't exactly bolted down, but we're going to be draining the oil in this. We're going to be opening up the intake cover. This is actually the carb is behind here. Clutch pack is on this side. I don't think we'll be getting into this, hopefully. My oil injection pump is behind here, so we'll be popping this open. I actually managed to find a carb kit. I guess there's companies that are making these now, which is pretty cool. So we're going to be pulling the carb off, cleaning it out, seeing how gunked up it is. And then if I need to, I've got some new gaskets and whatnot. My ultimate goal, hopefully by the end of this video, is to hear it run potentially. I really don't know how much work that's going to take though. There's a few safety measures we're going to have to take. The factory bike comes with a small, I don't know if you can see it, back in there is a small vacuum controlled diaphragm that is actually connected to the crankcase and the carburetor, I believe. From what I understand, that's like one of the only real few flaws this motor actually had, I believe. A lot of this stuff is running off of memory and what I've read on forums so far. We're just gonna take it slow, take it easy, try to pay attention to what things look like on the inside and see where we go. So right up in here I have my fuel, and then this one is, this black one here is actually the vacuum for the factory petcock. We're not running that anymore because you can't even find rebuilds for those. At least I couldn't. But what does fit on the factory fuel tank is a Sportster petcock. So I bought a non-vacuum controlled petcock so I can control the flow of fuel. You can kind of see all this back in here. I don't know if you can see, there's the crud back in there. That's actually where the intake drops down and the air comes in here and then goes in. So I might want to try to get in there maybe with a nice brush and clean out some of that crud. Oh, well, that's not good. That's the vent right there. I don't think it's supposed to be like that. And that actually looks really good. All right, so got a little bit of crud on the outside. We can go clean her off. All right, I kind of took her outside and sprayed her down a little bit. But let's see if we can get these screws broke loose. You can see some of the old fuel coming out there. Pretty varnished. The rest of it looks pretty good. This was rebuilt, I believe, in about 2004-ish, 5-ish. And it's been about 6 or 7 years, I believe, since this is ran. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a little cruddy. I'm surprised that still moves. The needle still moves. Yeah, I'm gonna take this out and spray it a little more. Alright, got a quick spray off outside. Some of that kind of came off. Alright, let's see if we can disassemble her a little. Well, a few hours later, got a host of goodies I'll probably end up using. Couldn't find the flathead I needed to take out the jet, so I swung by Harbor Freight, found one out of a variety kit I needed and grinded it down here, and now it fits perfect. No play. Cheaper than buying something professional grade, I guess. But I want to finish tearing this down, and then I got some chem dip. We're going to put that in. Let's see if this breaks loose. Yeah, not bad. There she is. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Alrighty, so we've got ourselves a carb that's cleaner. Now I do have a little carb kit that I picked up. I noticed it didn't come with the main, so I'll be reusing that. I think I'm going to reuse a few bits that look like they need replaced, but honestly, this stuff is from 2005 or so, I said. The needle feels good. The float came out great. And the jets and all look pretty good, honestly, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just hold on to this. I will be reusing the bowl gasket though, so I'll pull that out and use that, and we'll go from there. Over on the bike, I've got the slide all reassembled, and I'm going to start pulling these hoses out, and I'm going to try to get back in here with some cleaner and get that soaking so I can maybe clean that. Well, it's been the majority of the afternoon working on this. I think I'm going to call it here for today. Go grab some dinner and then start on this again tomorrow. Took my time on the carb, made sure everything was right. I didn't want to replace everything right away because everything looked pretty good, because honestly the carb was rebuilt fairly recently. There's just quite a bit of gunk in the bottom of the bowl, which makes sense with the way it was stored here recently and how long it's actually been sitting since it's ran. So all in all, it's not too bad. Alrighty, so in essence, what this is a factory crankcase breather, but it also collects excess pressure and oils and fuel potentially from the carburetor. And that particularly comes from this little hole right here, right at the tip of the screwdriver. I don't know if you can see that. That actually comes from the carburetor. So excess oil and fuel will come out of these. Goes down in here, and there's a small screen back here that's actually this bolt. Goes into there, passes through the cases. What it's supposed to do is goes in between these two O-rings here, and there's another little hole down in there that's supposed to allow excess oil and fuel go through this dual operating diaphragm. So this hole here is for the excess crankcase pressure for it to vent, and that's why they have the double O-ring. Now what happens is these O-rings will fail, or the diaphragms in here will fail, and there's no rebuild kits. There's never really been another two-stroke that has come out like this, just a few of these years. And what guys will do is, so what they recommend is putting a bit of RTV into this hole. That way it eliminates the direct passage into the crankcase. Alright, so we're going back to the evaporust method. Probably be the last time I get this use. So what I've done is kind of sealed off these containers, or the vents here and the exit, and we're going to see how much of this we can remove. So, alright, I stuck some rubber bits on top to hold what I need evaporusted under there, so I'll check on that in about a day. Well, at least it's still cleanish. There's not much of that washer left. Not a lot of material, honestly. That's impressive. Alright, so I poured a little more oil in that just to help it kind of flush anything out of there. I don't have a 10 mil drain gasket, so I'm going to run out and grab one. Alright, I got back. Got the new washer. We can put this up in here, fill this with oil. Might be all I have time today to do. Alright, well, once again, that is all the time I have for today to work on this. I'm going to let that oil tank sit in the evaporist overnight, and tomorrow hopefully I can reassemble that and fill that up with two-stroke oil. We're getting closer. Nice. Well, came out this morning and got the chain on, got the wheel tightened down, got the brake adjusted, got my kick on. Unfortunately today's Sunday, so the battery store is closed, and I've got the old 6-volt lithium battery here. I'm going to try to see if it'll run. Mostly you just need a battery because the bike doesn't have I think it's a rectifier or something. So it uses the battery to stabilize the load. So I'm going to throw that in and hopefully this works. So we'll put some gas in it and we're going to try the first couple of kicks. So one of the things I have to keep an eye on is the oil injection pump. Now I didn't break this loose and it didn't empty out, but I did change this line, which hopefully the air bled out of that overnight. But what you can do is you can come in here with this cover off and pull this cable back so it engages the oil pump full bore. And you'll know it's working because it'll get real smoky. vacuum. All right, well, it's in a running condition, sort of. It's kind of the same issue I had before when I tried running the bike, is the runaway throttle, which is typically indicative to a vacuum leak somewhere on the bike. I did try to seal up the O-ring around the carburetor. My fear is the next point that they usually say that it's leaking is around the, I think that's the butterfly valve that goes around the crank that takes in air. If that's leaking, I don't know, there's ways to fix it, but it kind of requires partial teardown. So we'll see. It seems like it's either sticking to me somewhere around the slide. I did go through and clean up all the cables and greased them and stuff, so they seem to be working fine. So I feel like it's catching somewhere else in the throttle body, and that's where it's hanging up, because it's not falling. I noticed it keeps sticking up somewhere in the throttle. So I can kind of show you here. See, it works fine. I don't know, like, it doesn't do it every time, but I noticed when it was breathing in, see, I'm trying to get to see if it'll stick. Yeah, see, there, it did it. That is what I'm experiencing. So I need to figure out why it's doing that. So I'm gonna have to pull this out again and check it out. So I've still got my work cut out for this bike, still lots to do. But now that everything in the garage smells like two-stroke, I can continue working on this bike, I guess. But if you watch this far, thank you. And until next time, thanks for watching.